Humans aren't born out of laying around on their asses. We've been born out of conquering a world. We're the dominant species. We built all this. We're powerful and we're beautiful and we're ready to build the next level of civilization in God's plan. But you must stop bowing to those who want to make you a victim. You must become the victor. If you love God and you want to build a pro-human future, then you are an enemy of the New World Order and Satanism. They want us shut down because we have the Spirit. I'm jacked into the source. I know the secret, and I want to see you empowered. But you have to believe in yourself first. This is the truth, and everyone knows it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very rare thing for me to come out and agree wholeheartedly and vociferously with somebody like Moist Critical. But on this, we are in total alignment. So the story is that some detritus piece of human garbage decided to chain up his dog as a hurricane is coming in. I mean, I would ask why, but there is no why. It's just evil. You're going to kill your... Oh my God, I can't even say it. Oh man.
The issues that we saw happen was we had somebody decide as Hurricane Milton approached that it would somehow be a good thing to take his dog and chain it to a post on the interstate. Well, we had a Florida Highway Patrol with us here today that saw that dog in distress. Dog was very rattled from that experience. Rescued the dog. The dog's now in Tallahassee. It will be adopted, renamed Trooper. But we said at the time, you don't just tie up a dog and have them out there for a storm. Totally unacceptable. And we're going to hold you accountable. Well, I'm proud to announce that the authorities have identified the dog's former owners, and State Attorney Susie Lopez is now pursuing animal cruelty charges against the individual.
Good.
We said you'd be held accountable, and you will.
Good. That is absolutely amazing. I mean, I was gonna make a death penalty joke, but look, I know that a lot of people have a soft spot in their heart for dogs. Myself, maybe more than most, because I consider dogs to be part of the family, and for somebody to do that, I just it's a visceral response. But anyway, I want to play this clip from Moist Critical. And by the way, Ron DeSantis, you're doing a great job. Fantastic. You're doing an absolutely killer job.
Not only existing, but being extremely hot. Check your pockets, right, gullible fool. The great news I want to share with you is that Tampa's newest and already most hated villain has actually been identified and caught. Right before Hurricane Milton was scheduled to slam into Tampa, a patrol officer noticed a dog chained to a fence in very high water. Everyone wanted to know who was the owner. What irredeemable piece of shit could do this to their pet? The idea was for the dog to die in the hurricane because the owner didn't want the dog anymore, clearly. This became such a huge story, not only online but locally, that my mom actually called me just to vent her frustration after seeing that video.
Wow. Based Moist Critical's mom. Yeah, no, wow. That's pretty great. There is something visceral that comes from watching something like that, because it's not like, I didn't return my shopping cart or something like trivial like that. It's an act of just pure malicious evil. It's an innocent animal that they can't get out of its situation, that you put them in harm's way for no valid reason. It's just pure evil. And I do think that the consequences should be severe for something like that. They should be severe. If you kill your dog, if you intentionally murder your dog, I'm not gonna come on here and become like a bleeding heart lefty. Meat is murder. Look, I don't think you should eat your dog. I don't think you should kill your dog. I think you should love your dog, okay? And not in the way that the left-wing online degenerate, Twitch community loves their dog. I'm not talking about furries or anything like that. I'm not talking about the way that Alinity loves her dog. I'm talking about you should treat your animal as though it's part of the family. I would do almost anything for my dogs. It's one of those things. And so based Moist Critical's mom.
The video was massive, and it became like a real-life Yu Yu Hakusho chapter black tape, where seeing it immediately sent you into a frenzy and made you hate the owner of this dog. He immediately just became public enemy number one. Like fucking Cobra Commander, and everyone was trying to hunt them down for how cruel this was.
On Trooper, who was found abandoned along I-75 in Hillsborough County. That was the day Hurricane Milton made landfall.
As Hurricane Milton was barreling toward our state, this dog was left to fend for itself in Hillsborough County.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Florida Highway Patrol troopers found the dog standing in water up to its chest after a Good Samaritan spotted the furry friend tied to a pole on I-75 near Bruce B. Downs Boulevard.
This is a video that infuriates pretty much anyone that sees it, for good reason. I thought there was no chance that the owner would ever be identified or anything like that, because this is not uncommon. There are tons of subhuman worms that do this all the time to pets they no longer want. But in this case, it became so big that it seems they put a lot of resources behind finding the owner here and bringing them to justice.
Good.
And so Trooper Morales rescued this dog.
Lopez tells us 23-year-old Giovanni Aldama Garcia has now been charged with aggravated animal cruelty. She says Garcia told investigators he was driving to Georgia to escape the hurricane, but left his dog on the side of the road because he couldn't find anyone to pick the dog up.
What?
Paul rolled a nat 1 on the persuasion check. That's a stupid reason.
Oh.
There were a million other things you could have done besides just leave the dog to die.
Literally
in fact,
anything.
he did more than that. It's not like he just pulled over and let the dog out, which would have been horrible.
Correct.
He went the extra mile into being exceptionally evil by making the decision to tie the dog to that fence, ensuring it would die in the hurricane because it would have no way of escaping. This asshole had to waddle through like shin-high water himself in order to tie the dog to that pole. He really wanted it to die. This isn't like the matter of, I was out of options, so I had to tie my dog to a fucking fence in the middle of a hurricane in order to keep myself safe on this journey to Georgia. Like, it's not like you couldn't take the dog with you. You were actively traveling with it in your car.
True.
Until you just threw your hands up, I guess, saying fiddlesticks, and then pulled over to tie the dog to the fence. I guess you needed to make room in your car for more Galaxy gas and Fent, you brain rot loser. Like, this is so unbelievably cruel, and there's no justifying it at all. There is no reason he could possibly give to try and make this not an awful, awful, terrible thing that he has done.
He did admit to being the dog's owner and admitted to wanting to get rid of this dog and had been making efforts to get rid of this dog for several weeks or months even before the storm. And this was his way to do it.
In the days following the dog's rescue, rumors circulated on social media that Trooper had been returned to its owner. However, the Leon County Humane Society wrote on Facebook that never happened.
That's so crazy to me that apparently he was trying to get rid of this dog for quite a long period of time and then decided, Eureka, this is the moment. Hurricane Milton can kill it. Finally, the Lord has answered my prayers. A natural disaster to kill my dog. What kind of psychopath? It blows my mind that someone like this exists. Like that is a testament.
It's funny. That was sort of my brain stuttering moment, earlier, where I was trying to just compute this. Most Critical and I agree on this almost completely. I can't even begin to understand what would go through somebody's mind to think I'm going to chain my dog to a fence during a hurricane in the hopes that it dies. I mean, that is a level of evil, just pure malice that I don't even know if I'm ready to confront. I mean, what? There's no upside for you. Oh, I wanted to get rid of the dog, so that's a life. Oh man.
To how far technology and science has come, because this guy 100% would have died fucking 10 years ago trying to investigate bear shit to see if it tasted good, and he would have just been mauled to death in a jungle, and we would have never been cursed to be burdened with his stupidity. Like, it is so fucking shocking that someone this dumb and this dangerously stupid and evil has made it this far.
Since then, the Leon County Humane Society has received hundreds of inquiries about the dog. Meanwhile, Lopez says some crimes can be enhanced to more serious ones if they're committed during a state of emergency. Animal cruelty is not one of them.
It has not been enhanced because we don't have the ability to do that, but the folks in Tallahassee do.
In Tampa, Ariel Placencia, Fox 13 News.
I've said this for years, and I will keep saying it for years to come. Animal cruelty charges need to carry harsher penalties.
Yes.
They need to have more severe consequences. There are an infinite number of studies that have been conducted that prove beyond a shadow of a doubt a very strong correlation between people that hurt animals and people that hurt human beings.
Yes.
I'm sure all of you already know this, but it's important to remember that one of the earliest signs of psychopathy in human beings is animal cruelty.
Yes.
Like a kid hurting the family pet, or skinning a stray cat, or gutting a squirrel, that kind of shit. Like, it is indicative of someone that could be a danger to society. Someone that would do something like this, tying a dog to a fence during a hurricane to ensure it dies a painful, agonizing death.
Yeah.
Like, I understand he is facing repercussions, which is great. I think it's a maximum of 5 years. I don't know if he'll actually get 5 years. I imagine he probably will not. But I think he should get the maximum possible sentence, and it should be a very harsh and severe sentence.
I don't know. I think based on watching Ron DeSantis, I think they're going to go for the maximum. I don't think they're going to let this guy off. I think they're going to make an example of this guy. That personally, that's my opinion. Maybe that's just my desire. But yeah, I absolutely think that the consequence should be just extremely severe. Now, of course, I'm not talking about capital punishment, but I mean, like, 10 years, I think, without the possibility of parole would seem fair to me if you chain your dog and leave it to die in such an overt way during an emergency. I think that 10 years would be fair. And by the way, you probably wouldn't make it because if people found out that you tried to kill your dog, I think 10 years is pretty reasonable.
I've said that for so long, and I will continue to say that for so long. Animal cruelty charges need to be taken much more seriously than they are. But I know I'm getting heated. The reason I'm calling this great news is because not only is the dog okay and most likely going to find its forever home after all of this, but they caught the guy, which I don't know how they did that. I appreciate that they took the time and effort to do that. I have no clue.
Well, let me just explain this. Charlie, not to just bring it back to your mom, but from everything that you've sort of suggested and hinted, your mom is not what you would consider like an internet personality or somebody that's constantly on the internet. I'm going to make an assumption that your mother is what we would traditionally call a relative normie in quote unquote, quotations. So if your mom is calling you to tell you about this story, that means that it's permeated into the mainstream of the conversation. And when something is permeated into the mainstream and it's such an open and slam dunk thing like this, and it engenders that sort of rage, people are going to react. And so Ron DeSantis himself, The governor of Florida is aware of this story, and he himself is disgusted by it and saying, we're going to do something about this. So when the governor of the state is aware of this and is a dog guy and is saying, this is just ridiculous, I think they're going to throw the book at this guy to set an example, but also because it's such a political win. Now, I don't know what your mother or father's, political affiliation is. I have no idea. But I imagine that whether they like Ron DeSantis or they don't like Ron DeSantis, it's a win for him to come in and demand the harshest possible penalty, because whether they're left-wing or they're right-wing, they're going to view him more favorably because of this. And I think ultimately that's what's going to happen here. I think they're just going to come down on this guy with the might of Zeus, because the case has really permeated into the cultural conversation. I don't live in Florida, and I know the story. A lot of people are going to be paying attention, and I think that you're going to see the reason they put so much into this is because it's such a public win for them to do so. And also it sets an example and it sets a standard that if you do this, we will find you and we will kill you. No, I'm just kidding. Kind of.
Clue how they pulled that shit off, though. That blows my mind. Like I said, this kind of thing does happen a lot, unfortunately, for pieces of shit that just don't want their dog anymore. I don't know how they tracked him down. I guess they must have had like some maybe like traffic cams that they started to like piece together a timeline, and they figured out who it was based on that. Maybe the sheriff's department's got Cerebro in their headquarters and they were able to fucking jack into the mainframe here and piece the whole puzzle together. I have no clue, but they did it.
The first thing I would imagine, I don't think it would be that hard. If this guy had been trying to get rid of the dog for a while, there may have been like a Facebook post, there may have been some kind of like, there may have been like a Craigslist post, there may have been something online that they were able to track down. There may have been people that they canvassed in the area and asked them like, hey, do you know about the situation? There may have been people who called in tips. That's another thing. Because the story went viral and people saw the dog, they may have said, hey, wait, I remember that dog, and they may have called in tips. It may have been a wide variety of tactics that ultimately led to them finding who this is, but I'm just really, really glad that they did, because this is just such a win. And I hope this guy rots in jail, and I'm glad the dog is doing okay. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, a more uplifting story for you in the endless sea of stuff we can talk about on the internet. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.